Heartwarming transformations as bikers discover a disabled girl bullied in a diner. Ellie stood outside the neon-lit diner, rain drizzling down her cheeks, a stark contrast to the warmth radiating from within. She pressed her palms against the glass, catching glimpses of laughter and camaraderie, heart aching to be part of it. Inside, her classmates reveled, and the jovial atmosphere felt like a distant world. Whispers about Ellie spread like wildfire, stung sharper than the rain itself. Battling cerebral palsy had never been easy, but their taunts made each step harder. Yet the diner's flickering sign called to her, hope wrapped in color. On that rainy afternoon, the aroma of fried potatoes mixed with the soft sounds of Elvis crooning, painting a vivid picture of teenage bliss. But for Ellie, it was a bittersweet symphony, one that ignited the flames of her dreams. She wanted to work there, to serve tables and take orders, to be seen for who she was inside, not the disease that marked her outside. But Ellie knew better. She had faced the taunts for years, hiding behind her smile, trying to blend in, yet always feeling like an outsider looking in. Today, the laughter morphed into cruel jeers as a couple of patrons targeted her. Their mockery cut deep, and through tears Ellie's spirit trembled. Suddenly, the atmosphere shifted. The door swung open, and a pack of leather-clad bikers, the Iron Eagles, strode in, their presence commanding attention. They settled into a booth, but as they overheard the laughter morph into harsher tones, their anger flared. Each of them had scars from their pasts, painful reminders of their own struggles and disrespect. They had seen it before, bullies throwing barbs at those who dared to be different. The leader, a giant of a man with tattoos snaking up his arms, turned to his friends. "Not on my watch," he growled, his voice low, like rumbling thunder. Without a second thought, they approached the sneering patrons. It wasn't just a spur-of-the-moment decision, it was a mission. The bikers stood beside Ellie, their presence like a protective wall. "Hey, why don't you leave her alone?" one of them shouted, the room falling silent. Eyes widened and hearts raced. Ellie felt a spark ignite within, a feeling she'd longed for, recognition, respect. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now, let's continue. As the bikers rallied around her, uplifting her with warmth and confidence, Ellie's smile transformed, reflecting the power of acceptance. No longer merely the answer, as uncertain as the clouds outside, ignited something fierce in her spirit. But just as hope began to swell, a voice cut through the lighthearted banter. "What's with the biker love fest?" A familiar voice dripped with sarcasm, eyes swimming with disdain. It was Jenna, Ellie's former friend turned antagonist, weaving through the crowd. Her gaze flicked between Ellie and the bikers, indignation contorting her features. "Do you really think they care about you? They only see you as a charity case." The air thickened again. All the warmth felt as fragile as spun sugar. Murmurs rippled through the onlookers as the room divided once more. The bikers squared their shoulders, facing Jenna defiantly. Tension crackled, threatening to drown out the burst of hope Ellie had begun to feel. "Can't you see?" The leader of the bikers stepped forward, his voice booming yet steady. "We care because everyone deserves to be treated with respect. We don't do charity, we protect our own." Each word dripped with conviction, and the power behind it sent chills down Ellie's spine. Ellie felt the ground shift underneath her. Would this moment of courage be enough to change hearts, or would the walls built by fear and prejudice prove insurmountable? As the clash of voices echoed around her, she clutched the edge of the table, her heart racing with uncertainty. What had begun as a space of camaraderie was now a battlefield, and on this fragile ground, Ellie had to decide. Would she rise up and claim her story, or would the familiar chains of doubt pull her back into the shadows? As she teetered on the edge of resolution, the moment hung in the air, filled with unspoken potential. Would she find the strength to fight for herself? And could the bikers be the allies she desperately needed? The clamor around her swelled, and the moment of truth was approaching fast. In that charged atmosphere, Ellie felt as if one flicker of courage could ignite a flame. The diners shared cautious glances, their energy shifting, hanging breathlessly between Ellie's past and a possible future. "Listen," the leader of the bikers said, his eyes fixed on Jenna with a fierce intensity. "It's not about pity or charity. We're standing up because it's the right thing, and Ellie deserves to be treated with respect. Don't you understand that?" His words struck like a hammer, each syllable ringing with truth. Ellie's heart raced. She felt the tide of opinion inching toward her in sweeping waves. But Jenna wasn't done yet. "It's easy to fight for someone when you don't actually know them, isn't it?" she sneered. "What's gonna happen when they find out how she really is? You think they'd still care?" The laughter that had poured forth moments ago faded into an eerie quiet, and Ellie's heart sank. The bubble of hope that began coiling in her chest threatened to pop. She glanced at the bikers, their faces stoic yet filled with their own uncertainty. Did they truly accept her, or would they shrink away once they learned about her struggles? "I'm not a charity case," Ellie found her voice, shaking but determined. I'm just me, and I don't want your pity." It was a small declaration, but one that felt like a lifeline amidst the chaos. Jenna's expression twisted with disbelief, as if Ellie had just challenged the very foundation of her bullying. The other diners weren't sure what to say. The atmosphere pulsed with conflict, hope fueled by Ellie's defiance battling desperation. The leader of the bikers stepped closer. "Ellie, we want to get to know you. We're not here to feel sorry for you. We're here to show you that you can stand tall no matter what." His voice, deep and reassuring, wrapped around her like a warm embrace. A flicker of determination sparked within Ellie, and she took a deep breath, allowing the warmth of their presence to seep into her. Other bikers nodded, their silent support radiating powerfully. "Maybe we can start by making that milkshake together," she suggested, a shy smile breaking through the tension. The crowd seemed to shift, curiosity nudging them to lean in closer. It felt like a new beginning was hovering over the diner. Someone coughed, breaking the silence, while a few onlookers exchanged hesitant smiles. Ellie's heart lightened just a bit. But then Jenna scoffed. "You think this is going to change anything?" Her voice dripped with disbelief, and Ellie's stomach tied itself into knots. For every smile, there was still a shadow looming. From the corner of her eye, Ellie saw one of the younger diner employees, a girl she recognized from school, watching with wide eyes. Could this really change anything? Could one act of kindness dismantle the walls that Jenna had built over the years? "Maybe it can," whispered a voice inside her. Just as she gathered her thoughts, another biker stepped forward. "Let's show everyone what it means to stand together." As he glanced at her, Ellie felt a rush of gratitude wash over her. This wasn't just about her anymore. It was about everyone who'd ever felt small, about proving that being seen and accepted was possible. But as hope rekindled in her heart, Jenna's voice sliced through again. "You're making a big mistake. This isn't just some fairy tale. You can't just change the way people think." Ellie's breath caught. The pang of Jenna's reality was like a slap, but it only steeled her resolve. "Maybe not, but we can start a new story." And as the murmured conversations flickered like candles in the crowd, Ellie realized the battle was only beginning. The unity of the bikers ignited a flame within her, but was it enough to thaw the ice surrounding Jenna and those who thought like her? With the weight of those questions pressing down, Ellie glanced at the door, wondering if stepping through would lead to a path of acceptance or another confrontation waiting to happen. Would she summon the courage to face whatever lay ahead, clinging to the fragile hope she'd conjured today. The answers loomed, teetering on the edge of realization, ready to unfold with the very next heartbeat. Ellie could feel everyone's eyes on her, the anticipation hanging in the air like the promise of rain. She dared to dream, lifting her chin slightly toward the bikers who appeared poised to support her in this moment. The gravity of what she just said lingered, thick with the potential for change. "All right," the leader of the bikers said, his voice steady and reassuring. "Let's make that milkshake." There was a ripple of laughter, a lightness breaking through the heavy tension. Ellie's heart swelled, a small seed of hope taking root. Jenna scoffed again, crossing her arms defiantly. "You think that's all it takes? A milkshake to wipe away the bullying, the whispers?" Her eyes flickered to the crowd, searching for support. "Maybe the rest of you don't see her for what she really is." A younger diner, someone Ellie barely knew, stepped forward, eyes aflame with resolve. "No, Jenna, you don't get to dictate how we see Ellie. She's more than the labels you place on her." The diner rang with murmurs of agreement, a surprising wave of unity washing away some of the darkness in the air. Ellie felt a flush of warmth creep into her cheeks, a sense of belonging tightening around her heart. These weren't just strangers anymore. They were anyone who'd ever felt small, ridiculed, or invisible. "Let's go, Ellie." The leader of the bikers reached out a hand, and she took it, her fingertips grazing against his roughened palm. There was strength in his grip, power bubbling just beneath the surface. The bustling diner faded into a distant hum as she focused on the journey ahead. Feeling her pulse quicken, Ellie stepped away from the table toward the counter. Together, they moved to the ice cream machine, where cheers erupted from the diners. It was as if the simple act of making a milkshake had become a revolutionary moment, a powerful reminder that change was possible, even amidst so much doubt. Ellie poured ingredients into a blender, her hands trembling slightly. "What's the secret to a perfect milkshake?" she asked, eager to break through the suffocating tension. "Extra whipped cream and a cherry on top," a voice chimed in from the back, and laughter bubbled up. The sound felt different this time, lighter, more genuine. Jenna's sneer faltered, her eyes narrowing as she assessed the scene, perhaps holding the line between mockery and understanding. Did she begin to feel discomfort under the weight of this unexpected acceptance? As Ellie whirled the blender, it blasted the room with a whirl of chatter and warmth. She could feel it, the tiniest flicker of hope growing stronger. The bikers cheered, clapping and throwing silly suggestions her way, each one helping her inch closer to a breakthrough she no longer thought possible. The milkshake was poured into a tall glass, topped with a generous swirl of whipped cream. Ellie turned to the triumphant cheers of those around her. The moment was intoxicating, a heady mix of fear and defiance transformed into a jubilant buzz. But then Jenna's laugh cut through once more, dripping with bitterness. "You think you've won? People don't change that easily." "Maybe they do," Ellie replied, the conviction in her voice surprising even herself. Just then, the chatter halted, and everyone turned to Jenna, who seemed poised with something hidden behind her bravado. Ellie's heart raced. Was there a flicker of vulnerability there? As Ellie absorbed the mixed reactions surrounding her, she realized this was only a beginning, a tiny spark ignited amidst the chaos. Could she really reshape her world, starting here in this diner? Was Jenna ready to confront her own reality? With the air electric with anticipation, Ellie prepared for the next move, feeling the weight of the uncertain conversations looming on the horizon. Would bravery and compassion be enough to bridge the gap, or would old wounds be too deep to overcome? The answer lay just ahead, throbbing in time with their collective heartbeat. Ellie steadied her breath, an unexpected resolve coursing through her veins. The milkshake, the cheers, they felt light against the storm brewing in Jenna's glare. Was it anger, jealousy, maybe even fear? Every judgmental eye in the diner seemed to shift between them, like a pendulum counting down. "What are you trying to prove, Ellie?" Jenna finally said, her voice cold yet strained. You think just because they laugh and cheer for you now, you're somehow enough? Ellie swallowed hard. Those words hit close to home, deep into her anxiety. I'm not trying to prove anything to you, she countered, her voice shaking but rising. I'm just trying to be who I really am, without the labels you keep pushing on me. Jenna's reaction surprised everyone. Her jaw tightened, her lips pressed together, as if a battle raged behind her dark eyes. The crowd held their breath, watching her reaction, ready to jump in if things turned ugly. Enough with the whole "let's cheer up the loser" act, Jenna spat, her voice sharper now. You're still the same girl everyone laughed at behind your back. A milkshake isn't going to change that. Ellie felt her heart sink. Jenna's words echoed, a cruel reminder of the past. But rising above the shadows inseparable from her, she took a step closer. I don't just want acceptance from you. I want it for myself. I have dreams, Jenna, real dreams, and today I'm taking a step toward them. A ripple went through the crowd, some nodding in agreement, some looking at Jenna, searching for any trace of softness beneath her harsh demeanor. Ellie turned to the bikers, who stood behind her, united. Their spirited presence ignited a small fire of courage within her. I want to be a part of this community, just like everyone else. She raised her chin a notch higher. We all deserve that chance, don't we? A voice piped up from the back. We do! We all deserve to be seen. It was the same younger diner who had defended Ellie earlier. This time he had a few allies. More voices joined in, a chorus of agreement rising against Jenna's negativity. Jenna shook her head, her walls thickening under the wave of support for Ellie. Eyes widening, she glanced from the bikers to the small crowd that had gathered with more warmth than she bargained for. You'll see, she warned, her bravado slipping. Things can't just change overnight. Ellie felt a sudden shift in the air. Maybe Jenna was right. Some things did take time. She met Jenna's gaze squarely, unblinking. Then let's start today. I'll keep fighting, and maybe you will too. Jenna's expression flickered. For the briefest moment, she looked uncertain. That vulnerability Ellie had sensed earlier resurfaced, battling against the walls Jenna had built for years. As silence filled the diner, the moment stretched out. Both girls stood their ground, Ellie feeling a budding sense of hope, while Jenna wrestled with feelings she hadn't wanted to acknowledge. Ellie closed her eyes for a heartbeat, absorbing the tension, the kindness, and the uncertainty intermingling in the air. Could they really change? Just then, the door swung open, a gust of chilled wind sweeping through as an older man stepped inside, his presence transforming the atmosphere. The laughter faded, and whispers broke out again. Was he a biker too? Someone new? Ellie's heart quickened. With Jenna's defenses wavering and this newcomer in the mix, a turning point loomed just ahead. The moment felt electric, pregnant with possibility. Would they find strength in the face of fear? Or would their fragile connection slip away, leaving them in the same old patterns? What lay ahead was cloaked in intrigue, waiting to be uncovered. The old man paused just inside the door, the chime of the bell behind him cutting through the icy tension. His grizzled face looked like a map of stories, etched with laughter and grief alike. The diner's chatter dimmed, eyes darting to him, curiosity swirling. Ellie clung to that curiosity, hoping he might deliver a much-needed distraction. "Can I help you?" Jenna's voice, usually laced with confidence, sounded more cautious now. "Just came to see what the fuss is about. Heard there's some real courage on display." The man's voice was deep, gravelly, yet warm, like a campfire on a chilly night. He scanned the room, finally landing on Ellie with an appraising gaze. Ellie's pulse raced as he walked towards her, his boots thumping against the floor. Each step seemed to reverberate in the silence, making her heart beat faster. What did he see? "Ellie, right?" he asked, tilting his head slightly. "I'm Hank. You've got quite the spirit, girl." She gave a hesitant smile, still feeling the weight of Jenna's harsh words behind her. "Thanks, but I'm just trying to be myself." "Being yourself takes guts," Hank replied, his eyes crinkling at the corners. "Takes more guts than pretending to be something you're not. Keep that fire lit." With each word, Ellie felt embers of her courage burning brighter. She relished the lift in the air, even as Jenna shifted uncomfortably, her defenses rising again. "Who are you to lecture us?" Jenna snapped, attempting to regain the interest of the crowd. "You don't know what we're going through." "No, I don't," Hank acknowledged, his tone steady. "But I can see that when we all act like we're in our own little worlds, we lose sight of each other. You might find that empathy and connection could make that world a better place." The bikers looked between Jenna and Hank, surprise bubbling under the surface. They clearly hadn't expected a confrontation. Ellie's heart soared at the sight of the bikers leaning in, some nodding in agreement, giving their support to Hank's unexpected wisdom. "Maybe it's time we all stop hiding behind our own fears," one of the bikers said, stepping forward. "Including you, Jenna." The words fell like stones, the certainty lingering in the air. Ellie noticed Jenna's jaw clenching, a flicker of realization crossing her eyes. Beneath watchful stares, perhaps the comfort of her walls was starting to crumble. "Maybe you should take the old man's advice, Jenna," Ellie suggested, her voice steadier now. "It's not just about me stepping into the light. It's about all of us finding the courage to connect." For a moment, Jenna looked as if she might fight back, but the fire in Ellie's words seemed to embolden the crowd around them. "What if we all had to be brave, say by sharing something about ourselves?" Hank proposed, a twinkle of mischief in his eye. "Why don't we start by telling a story, something that shows who we really are?" Ellie felt a rush of hope and apprehension. Could this really turn the tide? The thought of sharing her story, of revealing the girl behind the labels, felt both thrilling and terrifying. As heads nodded, anticipation buzzed through the diner. People leaned closer, eager for the revelations that could shift their perceptions. Would this moment help them see each other truly, or would it lock them deeper in their old habits, unraveling the fragile threads of connection that were just beginning to weave themselves together? Ellie steeled herself, waiting to see what stories would emerge, knowing they could lead to a whole new chapter for everyone. Would vulnerability prove more powerful than judgment? The silence in the diner throbbed with anticipation. Hank's proposition hung in the air like a key, ready to unlock stories hidden behind the facades everyone wore. Ellie clenched her hands, feeling both exposed and energized as she glanced around the room. Jenna crossed her arms, a defensive stance that still spoke volumes. "Like anyone would want to hear my story," she muttered, rolling her eyes. Ellie sighed, hoping that Jenna would surprise her, even if. It felt like a long shot. Then a burly biker named Tom, his tattoos curling like vines up his arms, shifted forward. "I don't mind kicking things off," he said, his voice booming yet inviting. "I've had my share of things I'm not proud of. When I was younger, I ran with a crowd that thought toughness meant being heartless." He looked around, catching the eyes of his friends, the weight of his admission settling in the air. "The truth is, we were just scared kids pretending we had it all together." His voice softened, revealing vulnerability buried beneath the hard exterior. "But I lost a lot of good friends that way. They didn't fit into my idea of tough, and I pushed them away. Now I wish I would have held on, let them in." For a moment, the diner held its breath. Ellie's heart swelled. Tom was breaking walls. His honesty breathed new life into the room. There were nods of understanding and shared glances as the bikers leaned closer, realizing how familiar his experience was. Another voice broke through. "I guess I could go next." Mary, the waitress, chimed in hesitantly, her voice trembling like leaves in the wind. "I've lived here my whole life, but I never felt like I belonged. I always thought I was just the background character in everyone else's story. Mary looked directly at Ellie, her gaze sincere. But when I started listening, when I became part of the conversations, I realized my story mattered too. Her smile was fragile but genuine. It feels freeing to share it, like lifting a weight off my shoulders. Hank nodded knowingly, the glimmer of wisdom evident in his eyes. Ellie felt a swell in her chest. This was what they needed, a divine chain reaction of openness that was slowly changing the atmosphere. Then, surprisingly, Jenna stepped forward. She hesitated, then pulled her arms free, unraveling some of her harsh armor. Okay, fine, I'll bite. I'm tired of pretending I don't care. Her voice wavered, but grew steadier. I've been the mean girl because I thought it was easier than being vulnerable, but I hate feeling alone. It's exhausting to keep up the act. Ellie's breath caught. She had fought so hard for a brave moment, and yet here, Jenna was breaking down the very wall she'd shielded behind. The room was alive now, every confession sparking new energy. Hearts were lifting, shoulders dropping, and judgments were melting away. As Ellie absorbed this transformative energy, her mind raced with possibilities. Would she find the courage to share her own story, one that had been silenced for too long? Her pulse quickened, her gut stirred. It was time. Just as Ellie prepared to speak, a sudden crash echoed from the kitchen, shattering the moment. All eyes turned, fear rippling through the diner, cutting the newfound bond in half. "What now?" the bartender grumbled, his brows furrowing in concern. Ellie felt her stomach sink. Could this interruption derail everything they had just built? Or would it lead to something unimaginable? In that charged moment, Ellie knew one thing. Whatever happened next would shape the path of their newfound connection. Would fear push them apart, or a disaster bring them closer than ever before? The kitchen door swung open, and a flustered cook stumbled out, his apron stained and his eyes wide with panic. "I'm sorry, folks, just dropped a whole tray of plates." His words tumbled out like the clattering dishware he had somehow managed to send crashing down. A heavy silence engulfed the diner again, hearts still racing from the latest wave of revelations. Ellie felt tension bouncing against the walls, a physical presence that threatened to suffocate them all. She glanced around at familiar faces now marked by surprise and concern. "Is everyone okay?" someone called out, the question drifting in like a fragile note in a tense symphony. Tom adjusted his leather jacket, his palms resting on the table. "No worries, man. Just some noise. We're all still here, right?" His deep voice held a jarring comfort, a sturdy anchor amidst uncertainty. Mary took a deep breath, visibly shaking off the moment. "Let's not let this ruin what we've started. I mean, we can keep sharing, can't we?" There was a glint of determination in her eyes, and Ellie admired her resolve. "Exactly," Jenna echoed, her walls still down, a strange spark of camaraderie bubbling to the surface. "After all this talk, I think a little noise is the least of our worries." In that moment of levity, a weight shifted in Ellie's heart. Laughter brushed through the diner, tentative at first, before blossoming into something genuine. A few silly jokes were tossed back and forth, laughter mingling with the lingering tension in the air. But as the banter faded, Ellie felt the heaviness return. The stories were still begging to be shared, truths hiding in her heart, pushing against her ribs. Could she shake the fear lingering in her throat long enough to step into the light? Every moment someone spoke, each confession shared, deepened the connection growing between them. It was raw and powerful, a bonding thread of unspoken understanding. Finally, she decided. With trembling hands, she took a breath and gripped the edge of the table. "You know, I've been thinking about what it means to really share. And honestly, I've kept my story locked away like a secret, and I'm tired of it. My name is Ellie. She paused, words sticky against her tongue. The fear of judgment loomed like an ominous cloud, but she pushed through, feeling every pair of eyes resting on her with something akin to support.
I, I grew up in a different place and was bullied for being different. I still carry those wounds. I thought sharing would make me weak, but I see now how it could be freeing." As she spoke, the room shifted again. Beneath the diner's familiar plates and cups were the commonalities that tied them
Together, fear, pain, and the long road of healing. Hank nodded, his expression one of encouragement. "Ellie, you're not alone. We've all got stories shaped by struggles. It's powerful when we open up. It reminds us to connect, to feel more human." Suddenly, the back door swung open again. This time, a small girl in a bright red dress hesitated at the threshold, the dim lights catching her wide, curious eyes. "Mommy," she called, scanning the room. Gasping whispers whispered through the diner as eyes darted toward her, a mix of wonder and concern flooding the space. Ellie's heart raced. Who was this girl? Why was she here? Before she could ponder more, the little girl slowly stepped inside the diner, taking a tentative step towards the table. Ellie felt an urge to protect her, a wave of maternal instinct washing over her. What now, she thought, her heart pounding with 1,000 different emotions tinged with curiosity. Would this new arrival further unravel their moments of connection, or bring them together in a wild twist of fate? The little girl in the red dress clutched her doll close, her eyes darting around the room like a timid bird. A silence fell over the diner, thicker than the tension from moments before. Ellie felt a pull in her heart, a need to reach out to this child, to wrap her in warmth and safety. "Sweetheart, where's your mommy?" Mary asked gently, leaning forward with a soft smile that broke through the awkwardness. The girl shifted, her small shoulders slumping slightly. I got lost. The door was open, and I heard noise." Her voice was barely above a whisper, yet it carried a weight that pulled at everyone's heartstrings. Tom's expression softened, his tough exterior momentarily cracking. "We'll help you find her," he said, his voice calm. "Why don't you come sit with us until she comes back?" "I want to wait for Mommy," the girl insisted, her grip tightening around the doll, but the tremble in her voice echoed a deeper loneliness. As the adults exchanged glances, it was a mixture of concern and determination. Ellie stood, feeling the pull to bridge the gap between the girl's fear and the safety of this chaotic diner. "I'll wait with you," she said, taking a step closer. "What's your name?" "Lila." The name came out shaky, but a flicker of hope sparked in her eyes as Ellie knelt down to be at eye level. "Lila, that's a beautiful name. I'm Ellie," she said, extending her hand gently. "What's your doll's name?" "Bella," Lila replied, glancing down at the doll, as if it held the answers to her heaviness. "She's my best friend." "Bella is lucky to have you," Ellie said. "You know, I have a favorite doll from when I was little, too. She always kept me company when I was scared." There was vulnerability in the admission, a shared experience bridging the gap between them. The girl's guarded expression began to melt, fear still lacing her features but softening slightly. As Ellie spoke with Leela, the diner seemed to breathe in unison, an empathetic hum that surrounded them. Meanwhile, Jenna reached out to the others at the table. "We should all help Leela feel safe. Everyone has grown a bit through sharing tonight. Maybe this is our chance to show her that she's not alone." The idea sparked an array of cheers for Leela, laughter bursting forth as everyone introduced themselves one by one, creating a warm circle around her. Each adult shared a little about their troubles, reminding everyone that life was full of struggles, but it was the connections that helped them power through. Ellie found herself smiling, the earlier weight in her heart lifting slightly. Watching Leela began to relax as she absorbed the love from the diner's patrons sparked something deep within her. "Where's your favorite place to go, Leela?" asked Hank, leaning in closely, his eyes soft. "The swings," Leela admitted shyly, a faint smile breaking through her anxiety. "You know, I used to love the swings too. The best feeling is when you go really high, like you're flying. Would you like to try that sometime? Ellie asked, invigorated by her conversation. Maybe, Leela replied, her lips quirking into a smile. Just then, the diner door swung open, and a frantic woman burst in, her hair disheveled and eyes wide in panic. Leela, oh thank goodness! She rushed inside, scanning the room. Ellie's heart sped up, realizing they were back to uncertainty, but this time it felt different. The warmth of community hung in the air like an embrace, and she could see Leela's mother steady herself as she locked on to her daughter. "Nami," Leela squealed, jumping into her mother's arms, relief washing over her small frame. As the reunion unfolded, Ellie felt a new kind of strength inside her. The connections made that night were powerful and real, and she realized that vulnerability led not only to healing for herself, but for others too. But as sweet moments cascaded around them, Ellie couldn't shake the feeling that deeper truths still loomed, waiting to be uncovered. What would happen if the walls they'd built, so carefully linking their hearts, began to display cracks? As the laughter faded into tender farewells, one thought echoed at the back of her mind. Could courage uncover more than she ever thought possible? As Leela and her mother embraced, a wave of relief flooded the diner. Ellie felt a warmth spreading through her, blending with the joy around her. There was something magical about seeing the simplicity of love and belonging sparkle in Leela's eyes. She had witnessed a beautiful moment, and that made all the difference. With the earlier confrontation fading into the background, the chatter and laughter resumed. The bikers, still gathered around Ellie, wore expressions of pride and solidarity. Tom turned to her, a grin plastered across his face. "You did good, kid. You showed real heart." Ellie felt a blush rise to her cheeks, from thanks or disbelief, she wasn't sure. She had stepped into the light, and the world didn't crumble around her. Instead, it felt like she had made an impact. The moment wrapped around her like a tight hug. Each shared story, every confession, had peeled away the layers of fear lurking in the corners. It wasn't just about Leela anymore. It had become about every single person in that diner. Ellie, the bikers, the waitstaff, even Jenna. They were all battling their own scars. Jenna, still lingering nearby, glanced over at Ellie. "I was a jerk. I know that now." Her voice was softer, no longer dripping with disdain, but laced with her own vulnerability. "I didn't see you for who you really are. I've been hiding too. I'm tired of being angry." Such a brave admission caught the air, painting a picture of hope where dissonance had once lived. Ellie's heart throbbed with unexpected compassion. "It's okay," she said, honesty rushing forth. "We all make mistakes, including me. I've hidden too. All I want is to be myself." The room dipped into silence, a shared understanding. Then, in that quiet, something awakened. The barrier Jenna had clung to started melting. Acceptance wafted in like the aroma of good food, ready to nourish. With newfound respect branching across the diner, Hank smiled encouragingly. "Why don't we make this a tradition, a night of sharing support? We can all bring something, maybe our stories or even talents." Ellie's gaze sparkled. "Yeah, a community open mic night. I'll sing, and we could create a space where people feel safe to share anything." "Count me in," said Tom, cracking his knuckles. "You've got a biker band for a backup." Laughter erupted, and even Jenna chuckled. With each ripple of their interactions, a transformation began to live amongst them, reshaping their identities in ways they never expected. As conversation's flow continued, Leela's mom approached Ellie. "You have an amazing spirit," she said, gratitude shining in her eyes. "Thank you for connecting with my daughter tonight." Ellie shrugged, feeling a blush rise once again. "I couldn't just stand by." "And look at the impact you've had," Leela's mom continued with a proud smile. "You've created a ripple that will touch others. That's what it means to lead from the heart." Ellie felt her chest swell with pride and warmth. She hadn't just transformed her own story, but begun to rewrite the narrative for everyone around her. She had discovered the powerful truth of connection. Every shared moment mattered. The diner's atmosphere shimmered with possibilities, and as laughter danced throughout,
Ellie realized that healing was not an end. It was a collective journey. They all had their stories, and breaking the silence would be the bridge they needed. As the evening wore on, donations were even collected from the bikers to fund community initiatives, a promise to give back to the very town they had ventured into for a meal. With smiles replacing judgment, friendships blossoming anew, anticipation fogged the air, filled with stories waiting to be told. They were all committed, bikers, diners, and even those once lost in fogs of disdain, to becoming a unified community that honored each other's journeys. As she stood amidst her new friends, Ellie's heart overflowed with gratitude. The journey had started with courage, but the magic was in their willingness to embrace vulnerability together. They were not just people in a diner. They had become a family. Together, she said, her voice rising through the clamor, we'll break down those walls. Let's lift each other up as high as those swings. Cheers erupted, echoing off the diner walls, each cheer weaving them closer together. In that moment, Ellie realized something profound. The best stories unfold when shared, not just in words, but in actions. The beauty of transformation lay in acceptance, and she knew this was just the beginning. As they prepared to leave, Ellie glanced around and smiled, her heart soaring. Can't wait for the next open mic. Who's ready to share? And in the glow of the neon diner lights, under the watchful gaze of the stars, the truth remained. They were not just a collection of scars. They were a vibrant tapestry of resilience, love, and transformation. Together, they had found their way home. Now it's your turn. If you felt the power of transformation in Ellie's story, then you need to subscribe now. This is the moment to show your support for these inspiring tales. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm so we can reach even more people who need to hear these messages. Comment below your reactions and feelings about this emotional ending. You might just inspire someone else. And don't wait, not even one more second, to share this video with at least 5 friends who are looking for a spark of hope and connection. Only true fans understand the importance of spreading these stories.